Hey everyone, welcome to Spiritual Journey. My name is Colleen Jorgensen, and we are going to talk about this really powerful full moon that's set to arrive on the 13th of January at 3:33 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that would be 2:33 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, an hour later at 4:33 p.m. on Central Standard Time, and 2 hours later, 5:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is a moon that is a little overwhelming to a great degree, and we need to be really kind to ourselves, but also kind to the people that are surrounding us, our loved ones. And we need to just pull up a little more compassion and a little more empathy for those individuals that are struggling to some degree. So Cancer is, like I said, a very sensitive sign. It's really looking to connect to our tribe, where we belong. Who is our who is our tribal members, and what do we really resonate with? So this doesn't necessarily mean your family. It can be people that you just are gravitated to, that you feel like you belong to them. So this is really a moon that's focused on that security, that sense of belonging. It's a little bit protectionism and safety within the fold of the union that you have, or the emotional connections that you have with other people. So it really says follow your intuition, follow your insight, and really pay attention to your feelings. So full moons are a time of peak energy. They're a culmination that everything builds and builds and builds till it hits the point of pure awareness of what is happening. And so this can be in and of itself a very emotional time as we kind of ride the waves of this energy. So Cancer is also about properties. It's about our homes, where we live. It's about real estate, patriotism, our homeland, family, motherhood, women's issues are most likely going to take center stage here. It's really a lot of water here, because we have not only the moon in Cancer, with Mars now has returned back to Cancer. And then we have this overwhelming energy with Neptune in Pisces. The North Node is just emerging into Pisces. We have Saturn in Pisces and Venus. So there's a lot of water here in this chart. And so that can give us a lot of compassion, sympathy, and it really maybe highlights some of those areas that are still struggling with the hurricanes that moved through last fall, like North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. Those areas were really impacted. So here we can really see a wave of people coming together and really reaching a point of resolution, coming to the peak of what really is happening. Now, because the moon is in Cancer, she's in her own dignitary. She's functioning really, really well. And she's in opposition to the sun, which is in Capricorn. And so this is really addressing this battle between the people and the governments, or our leaders. Now, here we have a chart with the moon really close to Mars and the sun very close to Pluto. And we've recently had Mars and Pluto really battling it out. And that emerged at the beginning of November when they first made their opposition to one another. And it really caused a real polarization, control issues, some infighting that was happening. And at that same time, we had Mercury retrograde in opposition to Jupiter. So we had a lot of gossip with that polarization and a lot of real sort of anger issues beginning to emerge at this time. And of course, that was the time that the United States election was really happening, and there was a lot of sides being taken. And Mars is a planet that says take action personally, or the people now in this chart could be taking affirmative action in that really sensitive sign of Cancer up against the controls that are emerging with the sun so close to Pluto. And really, the sun in the sign of Capricorn is kind of a cold and distant sign, and up against Pluto in the new sign of Aquarius is really kind of looking for a leader that's going to break from tradition. And so that is going to be interesting, not just for the United States or Canada, which is also having leadership difficulties, but is also impacting many other parts of the world and around the world of leadership, such as France is struggling with some of that as well. So this is a really powerful moon because it's really highlighting that security within our own homeland and who is leading us, and that polarization between Mars, which is the fight against people in control or issues that are controlling. And so it's also it's very passionate, it's very intense. It's a lot of willpower here that could really clash and come to a head over disagreements that are occurring within this fixed energy that is arising. So this is a really focused, determined, it's really good for manifestation. It's really good for willpower. And it really can produce a lot of powerful energy that emerges, but it's very combustible. So that means it is like a match, all of a sudden can light a great big fire. And Mars is really active, being this close to the land sign. So land and property and fires on property on fire, which is devastating California right now. So we have Mars in retrograde, which is really close to the Earth, which is really igniting a lot of energy here that's really combustible energy and almost to some degrees explosive. So Mars is also out of bounds, and out of bounds planets don't act in the normal capacity as a planet normally would, because it's outside the boundaries of what a planet normally acts. So this is out of control energy. It brings new trends to emerge. But it really goes beyond and is really extreme because Mars is still moving in between and around the opposition to Pluto. So on top of all of this, we now have the North Node, which is just ready to set sail in Pisces. But at this full moon, the North Node, the eclipse point, is sitting at 00 degrees of Aries. So this really brings the world into focus on what is happening around the world with some of these issues, women's issues, especially motherhood, properties, family connections. And in some cases, this is really going to bring people together in tribal community support systems as they battle against the powers that be that are really out of their control. Because Pluto in Aquarius is beginning to break it down trends that as humans have been exhibiting for a while. So it's trying to break those down and make us aware of how our actions really have an impact on the world around us. And we're going to come more into focus about those types of issues as Pluto emerges deeper into the sign of Aquarius. So it's just new, it's new energy, and it's really saying to us, have some compassion for humanity, but really try and break away and put aside some of the actions that we are uh, doing that perhaps we're not aware that it's having such an impact on the people around us, and especially our loved ones. So this can be a really challenging full moon, and it can also be a moon that is very enlightening and brings us some enlightenment. So that Pluto opposition to Saturn also occurred at the beginning of January, and it's really not over until the end of April. So this is really motivational. Mars is retrograde. We have to really look at some old outstanding issues here that are resurfacing and that we just can't let go of. It's like an obsessiveness that we have to keep going and exert our control, our power in whatever issues were going on last fall. Now, this is a T-square between all of this powerful energy all in itself, and it's funneling into Eris. Now, Eris is, of course, uh, the evil witch that wasn't invited to the party. She was excluded because it seems like she always causes trouble wherever she goes. But yet the highlight of Eris is not to be excluded, to be equalized and viewed as part of the group, part of the family, part of the tribe. So here we have a real polarization again that's saying my issues relate to inequality. And so we're going to hear a lot about inequality, especially amongst women or people being excluded in the family, maybe by choice, excluded from the tribe because they just don't fit in, And Chiron is there. So this is personal wounds and personal healings that are taking hold. So there's feelings of being left out, challenging us to address our own personal needs and really working through our own healing and how we can stand apart and be recognized within ourselves and our own self-identity. However, it's still plugging into this. So some of these issues that we're carrying on in the fall are really coming forward at this full moon. And it's kind of a bit of a troublemaker. Now, Eris doesn't necessarily take the action herself. She's like quite often will cast a spell or She'll do something, throw the ball in the air and let the goddesses fight over who's the fairest of them all. And she kind of lets people recognize what it feels like not to belong to the tribe, not to belong in the family. And so there's a bit of a troublemaking energy here, which is really seeking out support for someone's personal causes. So it's not a big issue here. And this could be someone who is saying, you're not addressing my issue. And so you guys are all doing your own thing, but you're not looking at my point of view. So this is putting them front and center that they want the attention. They want to be recognized. You know, we can really get trapped in this T-square energy, and it's a cardinal energy. So it's really new issues are emerging at the same time as some old issues are resurfacing. So it can get really complicated. So just really pay attention to that energy. It's of primary importance here. And it's kind of the backdrop to solutions. Like we got a problem and now we got to figure out what the solution is. So the moon is in her own dignity in the sign of Cancer. She's quite comfortable. She's ruling Mars, which is making Mars a little weepy and struggling a little bit because he's also in the sign of Cancer. And this could be very, very like running into hiding after one's done taking some action. And so it can be quite guilt-ridden energy, actually. So the sun is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. And that is really challenging a lot of people, this Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn in Pisces, Saturn likes direction, clear cut, do this, do that. I know where I stand. In Pisces, there is no lines. It's wishy-washy. It's kind of like if you feel like doing it, do it. If you don't do it. It's a really decreasing productivity because nobody knows what they're doing or how they're supposed to be doing it. And Mars or Saturn is still in square to Jupiter, which is in Gemini. And so that's a lot of blaming that, well, I never did it because he was supposed to be doing it, or I don't know. None of us know what are doing. It's really challenging and it really causes a lot of restrictive energy because Saturn is trying to slow down all the information that is Jupiter is holding in Gemini. There is too much information here, and it's really difficult to sort out what the truth is. There's been so much said and so much information put forward that really nobody knows where they stand. This can really cause some difficulties with media. It can really cause some difficulties due to wind or wind damage. Jupiter rules inflation, inflationary stuff, and Saturn is trying to water it down, but I don't really think that it's really having much of an effect. So there's a lot of problems here in this chart that are saying that there really is no solution or nobody really has a solution for anything. Venus is also joining Saturn. And so that is really highlighting somebody's got to make a commitment, a real strong commitment. And I think it's words. I think it's just a feeling that yes, I will. It's a lot of promises, just like the square to Jupiter. It's a lot of promises, but I don't know if it's got any solidity to it. Like, is it really a promise or is it just a bunch of words? So I think there's a lot of false realizations, a lot of lies that are kind of embedded in this thread. And of course, Saturn has made its second square to Jupiter on the 24th of December, and it will again make it its final square to Saturn on June 15th. This is really hard for the economies because Saturn and Jupiter rules the economies. So the good news is that this sun and moon are going to trine Uranus, and the moon's going to sextile Uranus. And Uranus is a very innovative, very futuristic planet in the sign of Taurus. Like, what's of value? What do we really want that's worthwhile doing, that gives us a sense of richness, really, in the sign of Taurus? And it's really original. Uranus is really original. So we're really seeking out some originality, something different, something that holds a lot of promise for the future. And we really, with this connection, can break free from some of the things that really hold us down to task. Because we have to remember that Venus, the ruler of Uranus, is sitting beside Saturn. So these are new commitments that are actually being made, new connections, and something that's really exciting, that really makes us feel enthusiastic about where we're going and how we can really embrace our authenticity and originality. So it's very liberating in many respects. It's really transforming. And it really is a lovely, lovely inspirational energy that we can really grasp and really do something creative with this moon, and together, like as a group or a tribe or a family. Mars is also making its trine to Neptune and the North Node. So this is highly creative, inspirational energy that gives us the solution to many of the problems, that our ability to step back and view it not in the physical sense, but in the spiritual well-being of who we are and our own authenticity. And is that really you? And so you got to really self-identify and really kind of plug into, is this me? Is this what I would normally do? Or am I just following the group? So some of us are going to actually separate from certain tribes or relationships or groups that we're in because it's not fulfilling our needs any longer. And we're really going to step out of that and have a really good look at our own spirituality and our own individuality because of the square to Chiron and Eris. And if you're just following the group, I don't know if that's going to work so well with this energy. So there's a lot going on here. Mercury now is at 7 degrees Capricorn, and Mercury is really not playing a role here, but Mercury in Capricorn is a very serious talk. And we could see very serious communication, negotiations, a big seriousness emerging, especially with trade agreements, which is happening with the United States and its partner with Canada and Mexico and other partners around the world. So this is really serious business that's happening. So really take care, really understand where you belong and with who you belong. And do you want to really be a part of those associations anymore? So I'm going to leave you with that. And I hope that you join me next time with whatever I'm talking about. Have a good evening. Bye bye.